Yeah, hi Evgeny. Wait a second. Yeah, hi Evgeny. I'm really happy to have you on board with our podcast because you're kind of special. You have a bold mentality and mindset to actually leverage uh, the dreams of every boy we have to be an astronaut. And I'm going to be just for the reference, Evgeny Onutchin. I'm going to be call you E, and I think this is how we go. And everything you do, you try to basically push to the boundaries. And I love the fact that you call yourself E. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's a wonderful weather today. All good.
Me being really health conscious, I've been joining companies to align personal goals with the vision of the company. So uh, back in the days, one of my favorite companies is Freeletics. Many of my friends know me for being a Freeletic fan. But along the way in Freeletics, I realized that, this ratio of staying healthy is like 70-30, where 30% is staying active and exercise, but 70% is all about nutrition. So what we put in is actually defines what we are. And you're taking a mission and change that for everyone. And actually for all the geeks, because your product is called Spacefood. And let's just explore what is Spacefood and what are you doing?
Well, in simple words, we're developing food for future astronauts and nowadays astronauts. Nutritious and delicious dried fruits and vegetables that you can take to a long mission, either to Mars, Moon, or beyond. So that's our goal. As of now, we working with producing dried fruits and distributing it to the space enthusiasts like myself and you. We're doing it via online channels and trying to reach as many enthusiasts as possible, including the crews and ground people who work on ground.
And just to demystify some facts, because I've been growing up with the belief that if you're going to space, the only thing you're going to be eating is basically like a tube or jelly food. Same thing. It's similar to like you have like the toothpaste, but instead of a toothpaste, you would have some nutrition in the semi liquid state. Is that so?
It used to be, well, it used to be very processed food. Nowadays, it's not like that. So you can potentially take with you any type of food, but it has to stand in a specific parameter. So, for example, you cannot take crunchy food because of the floating crumbs around the spacecraft is a matter of danger. Well, we nowadays also have superfoods, right? In a supermarket, you can get like paste-like foods and etc. And the people in space are still people. They like to chew. They like to kind of smell and taste natural food. So that's why it's a next step of food development is to have like hyper-natural food in space, right? Um, the problem with food in space in general is that it has to comply with number of specifics like it has no it shouldn't carry any harmful bacteria or mold or anything else inside because it's more or less sterilized space, and you have to keep it this way because people ill in space, it's very problematic. So
And
tubes were so tubes was the solution before, but now it's more and more of a real food going into the space. Yeah.
what about packaging? Is that or by the way, why did that happen? Like, why do we now suddenly able to bring more of a natural food?
hmm First, there are a number of technologies were developed, including the cold freeze drying food. So, for example, that was one of the developments that is currently used widely in the space industry. So, for example, NASA doing it with the drying food in very low degrees, so it loses all of the liquids. Basically, it's weightless, but it preserves the taste and also the texture. So when you put again the water, so liquefy, yeah, hydrate again the food, and it's happening through a station, like a small box where you have a packaged food, and then you put the into the hot valve, so the water goes inside of this packaging, and it's become like a real fruit again, or real food again. Yeah.
What about this sterilization process? How do you even sterilize food?
hmm So there are a number of ways to sterilize food, right? One is to expose it to heat. It doesn't kill um, all of the bacteria and all of the live elements in food, which you actually don't want to do also, because part of the food is its um, nutrition, right? It comes from specific types of cells and bacteria, so you want to preserve it. So heating is one of them. Second is to use the cold freeze drying, and then there is an nowadays exploration of cold plasma technology, which we try to tackle in our development. And this is another way of inhibiting bad organisms, and but still keeping the nutritional values. Yeah.
Um, Plasma. So when we're talking about plasma, this is like, fourth state of material. So we know like this. If we talk about water, so we know the hard state, so the ice, then the liquid state, the water, the liquid water. Then the next state is a gas when it starts operating. So when we're steaming this, and the plasma is basically extremely hot state of gas. And by the way, this is a fact that the galaxy, the most common state in the galaxy is plasma. Like all the stars and are made of well, they are in the plasma state. So when you're saying, okay, cold plasma technology, this doesn't make sense to me. Can you elaborate on that?
hmm Well, it is an interesting technology. I think it's more confusing of a definition. However, it is still plasma state. So what is happening with the cold plasma? It is generated through a discharge of electricity through a nozzle that points on a in the environment or on an object. So it discharge electricity, and then what happens is ionization in that area. And the interesting thing about it that it's called cold plasma, meaning you can actually touch it, right? So it's not gonna burn your skin, and probably that where it comes from. Interestingly, this technology comes from the space experiments. So on ESA, there were a number of modules sent um, to the crew in order to experiment with various plasma states that were theorized on Earth, but tested on the ESA, no, International Space Station. This technology is already at the, let's say, state where it's proven to work. So there are applications in medical field like disinfection of wounds and other beauty applications. However, in food, it still wasn't tested fully. So what we try to do is to leverage this technology for uh, disinfecting or inhibiting bad organisms before or after sending the food to the drying process. With that, we hope in general to reduce amount of energy spent for drying process, because with the heat going high, you have to kind of kill the bacteria, but from other side, vitamins like vitamin C getting degraded. So heat and vitamin C are no good. So we try to find a way and the balance when we go lower temperatures and over the shorter period of time, but still having the fruits and vegetables in their more or less original nutritional state. It's a great challenge, and we try to experiment with that and grasping this first of all technology, getting access to it. So it's a long process, but we are trying to do that. Yeah.
And you know, like this is maybe like very stupid question, but how do you make it uh, taste so delicious? And I just for the record, before we met, you gave me some samples of the food that you already brought on the market. So by the way, you could already go ahead and order it online. Uh, I was first skeptic. I was, by the visuals, it doesn't look any different than dry fruits from the supermarket. But when you open that, and I was like with my kids and family, and I remember my daughter going, she went crazy. It's like I gave her kiwi, the dried kiwi. She was like, "Oh my God, I would, if I had this guess game where they put you tomato, like cucumbers, and you have to guess." She says, "I would never guess that it's dried kiwi, but it tastes so well." And then my wife was like, I wanna eat it more often. Why don't we just like, buy it like more frequently?" And say, well, it is an expensive product because it's made for specific cause, basically made for superhumans. Made for superhuman means like, like for people being able to exposure of super dangerous environment working in space. But my question, why they don't do the same thing in supermarkets and what you buy is basically full of sugar? Like, is that something that comes with preservation?
A number of reasons. First of all, in order to keep the food on a shelf for a long period of time, you have to use stabilizers and other additives. Um, and that's what majority of the producers doing. There are, of course, brands that are producing natural food with no additives, but it's still a small fraction. But since people are more aware um, of the various harmful effects of food preservatives and stabilizers, this is becoming more and more popular. So what we in Spacefood did is define the process, right? Process of drying, which is going very close to the natural process. So it's exposure to the heat over a long period of time from high temperature to lower temperature. Now, when you're in the mass production and the market has to be supplied with a specific fruit, you, as a producer of the food, in many cases just go for the speed or over the quality. So it's higher temperatures that are, I don't know, above 100 degrees, which kills everything, and then you have to cool it quickly. And then it goes into the packaging. Um, and this process is sort of a standard nowadays. So when you go to supermarket, you get the food that is saturated with specific things like mango added with the sugar. And in our case, we don't add anything, right? It's just fruit itself. It's originally comes from Georgia. We know all of the local farmers, and we collect this or harvest from the local farmers. It's amazing soil there, very high quality fruits and vegetables growing there. Apart from that, the people are amazing there. It's just they all about food, and that's a great factor there also. So our factory also located in Georgia, which is a relatively inexpensive place to produce, right? That's why we actually own a good margin for the revenue. And as soon as we go to certification processes with space, we're probably going to raise our pricing. So jump on the opportunity to buy more now. Nevertheless, the taste of the food is really depends on how it was growing, right, and which conditions. And here we can definitely say that our raw fruits, vegetables, and berries are very high level. So it's more like a boutique products. Additionally, you will not find the majority of the types of the foods in the supermarket. We try to introduce newer options. So, for example, we're going to introduce mandarine, so dried mandarin, dried pear, which are very tasty. Also from the range currently kiwi, which is a sour bomb, a really high vitamin C level. It's 3 times more than orange, meaning it's a very, very strong vitamin C booster. Also, it's interesting that seasonally you will prefer different fruits. That's why we range of 4 fruits every single round. So we match them taste-wise. So from super sweet to super sour, for example, where I would say honey melon is the sweetest one. You really like eat it with a coffee. Then very high nutritional value of persimmon. This is another fruit which is not available on the market. We try to scout very kind of unique products, and we do not kill them in the process of drying, but the opposite way. We try to bring all of the benefits of it. When you open up the packaging, you have to smell it because this preserves the original smell um, of the vitamin-rich fruit.
By
Yeah.
the way, is there a smell in the space? Like a stupid question, but do people smell things there?
Mhm. Yes, people smell, but slightly different. Due to the zero gravity, all of the receptors getting swollen, so taste getting a little bit more numb, smell is not that vivid anymore. So also funny fact that people grow up to 5 centimeters in the space. Um, when it's in a capsule, of course, when you open a package, you smell it. And that's kind of a natural thing. You want to smell your food before you consume it because number of things happening, right? You need to smell it because you can evaluate, is it a fresh product? Can you eat it? Are you going to die after consuming it or not? So um, you have to preserve the smell. And this is one of the things we try to package also inside of our packaging, which is relatively unique to the um, to how it's packaged now, right? You try to eliminate the exposure to the air maximum, so all of the air sucked out of the packaging for the space food that is going to the ISS, for example, for emission. Yeah.
Do you know how they deal with uh, packaging? So, like, are they dispose this in a space, or what's happening with all the packaging in the space station?
Well, there is no garbage truck that is going there every week and collecting the garbage, so there is need to be some sort of a setup where you can uh, either recycle or dispose safely the packaging. You cannot throw it just into the space and on into the orbit because it's gonna come back at your spacecraft with a couple hundred or even 1,000 kilometers per hour and damage something. So you probably take it with you. In our case, what we're trying to do is we're developing reusable packaging. So you can reutilize it to store small parts inside, but also in the future, we want to use the biodegradable materials that can go into the soil. So there is an interesting fact that nowadays people able to grow tomatoes and small plants on the in zero gravity. They grow into many directions, and it's a wildly looking plants. But you need to kind of get the soil there and etc. So if you have a packaging which can be reutilized to put back into the cycle, will be very handy. And in general, the idea of Spacefood is to develop closed cycle food systems where you plant food, you harvest it, you dry it, consume it, and then after the consumption, you put it to the use again. So it's a cradle to cradle concept, which evolves from industrial design ages since ages, and that's what we try kind of to implement in this cycle.
You know, I've read this science fiction story of the astronauts going crazy in space uh, because they're you know, the food was in the tubes, and after a while the guts couldn't create this reflex of move your food down the drain, so your going to toilet was like a really big issue because like your body did not get any fiber because like everything was kind of like in this semi-liquid state. And I've been instantly thinking by actually adding to diet things like what you produce, so this, you know, dried food, um, is actually, you know, fighting those problems because like it has a lot of fiber and vitamins. And uh, but you know, it might be like a really perverse topic, but um, what happens with the toilets? Like, because I know this is the fact. no liquids is lost in space. Everything is being reutilized. So people basically filter what they produce as a urine, and then they drink it because they extract all the water, and then everything else goes away. Are there any interesting facts based from the food industry and the toilet industry in space?
Well, there are vacuum toilets, right, on the space stations that I don't know what happens with the outputs of more solid state in space, and I don't want to make mistakes. And also, if any facts are sounding not really correct or something, please comment to us, because it's I'm not really a specialist. I haven't been to space yet, but that's in plans. As of the uh, toilet, that's a good question, and probably better to ask an astronaut or something to see how it actually going through the process. As far as I know, so all of the things collected and stored somewhere, water or liquids materials are put through the recycling process, right? This is like a small Earth in space, which everything is circulating within. So air, water, and more or less anything that can be reused is reutilized there.
And
Um,
preparing your roadmaps and like building on your product and vision, did you have a chance to meet real astronauts?
we're actually working on that now. We are part of the Deutsche Luftraum and ESA network, where we getting exposure to topics of agriculture and health, and a number of ongoing processes now towards placing our food into analog missions. So we already sent 100 packs to the student analog mission that is going to take place in a couple of weeks in Austria. And we're also negotiating with a number of, uh, let's say, bodies about actually putting the food into tests on Earth. So first phase is to put it to the place where astronauts going and training themselves, right, for the missions. And this is a process that we try to approach. We integrate with various programs that ESA now launched, and trying to put it into space. So it's gonna be there. The question is when. And as of actually like another psychological aspect of the food in space you asked earlier is that you know, people have to consume food, and astronauts going crazy in science fiction, but it's, let's say, not that far away from the truth, because in confined spaces you need to have um, psychological help, some sort of a psychological relief, and food works very well for that. It's not just by accident that people in stress eat more, right? And stressful environments in general are kind of promoting consumption of the food. And here, space food functions currently as a nice treat that reconnects you to Earth, right? That gives you kind of smell and feeling and taste and texture of the fruits that you ate on the ground, right? And this is another aspect. So the mission related to psychological state, analog mission, is going to be launched soonish. I cannot tell exactly the dates and names and numbers because it's still the topic of um, uh, the topic of
But
NDA,
you know,
non-disclosure. Yeah.
yeah, but
Mhm.
like the analog mission, it's basically, in my understanding, is a simulation of a real environment where you could lock yourself on the island or in the close to real conditions, let's say in Antarctica, or where it's extremely cold or extremely deserted environment, and then try to basically simulate your ability to work and do the scientists experiments under extreme pressure in the closed environment where you're going crazy because, like, it's basically submarine affect. You're working with the same people, eating same food, sharing toilet, etc. And I think it could be extremely challenging because human are not made for that. And actually, what I love that you think about, okay, how through food I'm able to relieve that stress and make a feeling for people to be connected with Earth. Um, and you say, like, I haven't been to space. Would you like to opt in for any kind of mission to go to space?
Um, I'm afraid my partner in life gonna be against it, but yeah, I'm both hands for going to space, even just for a short trip. My in general, how I came to this, and when we talk about the history and children vision, I first time got exposed to kind of space theme when I was at age 11, and I passed by a library and there was a screening of some movie, a science fiction movie, where we've seen a spaceships flying around and people traveling and etc. And I got so excited from this movie that I started to dream of my own spacecraft. Uh, Spacecraft that is kind of on orbit of the Earth or maybe somewhere behind the moon so nobody sees it. And I have like a small capsule parked on my cellar, in a cellar or on the roof, so I can jump on it and go to a space exploration travel. And this was maybe a little bit of thinking of or wish of escaping from the harsh environments I've been growing in, and sort of escape mode. And let's say 40 years later, or let's say 30 years later, I started this project from thinking of, okay, I have like I want to have a lot of dried fruits because I'm really passionate about those topics, and I wanted to have a storage from from ceiling to floor filled with the dry fruits, and this was my vision. From there, basically, a couple of years fast forward, and I'm now dealing with both of my topics of passion, so space exploration and dried fruits, food, nuts, and everything.
Well, you remind me of the Tim Dodd is basically the author of a podcast. It's called Everyday Astronaut, and he's explaining with very simple stories, evidences, everything around the spaceship industry, but from the rocket building point of view. So he could, like, basically go into a discussion with what is the difference between a Raptor and yet another great engine. And I love how you've connected this basically. Uh, uh, Enthusiasm towards space and food. And I think, like, food is a lot more noble because it brings this link between Earth and people out there. Yet still, you basically on the forefront of this analogy. But if I define your company, Spacefood, it's not, to me, it's not a food company. It's more R&D, like a research and development company, because the key component in making this accessible is actually this, technology of preservation, technology of packaging, technology of delivering taste without additives, or things like, cold plasma and stuff like that. How active you are in basically researching and going in these two topics, and how do you manage that? Like, tell me about, like,
Mhm.
companies and how do you actually operate that startup of yours?
Well, first of all, we're still not a very big company. We just funded in January, and we're already getting quite interesting traction. Now, reference to your point, saying, okay, everybody is into the rocket science, but here is E with his food. Um, the funny fact is that we participated in one of the space tech expos, and we've been only stand with the food. Um, the entire exhibition grounds were filled with various solutions for satellite vision and advanced tracking and propeller or propelling devices and rocket engines and everything, and single stand which had the most interest. It was us, because simply because when you send people to space, right, rockets and everything is nice, but as soon as you have a manned mission, you have to think of food, drink, toilet and other basics, right? And we kind of trying to close this gap where uh, not many private companies digging into. So there are actually companies that are supplying food for space and in Japan, in US, but no specialized private companies that only doing that. So that's our benefit there. Now, how do we manage the company? It's a good question.
Are you
We at the very beginning,
Berlin based, or where are you based?
yeah, so we have headquarters in Berlin, directly at Alexanderplatz. Our production line sitting in Georgia, so it's a factory with 20 plus workers that are constantly producing the food. And we planning to set up a small research lab here at Alexanderplatz where we can run quick tests for the food. And apart from that, majority of the food testing and development will be done with external service providers like Deutsche Institut für Lebensmittel. So they have very great facilities where we recently visited, and they open to assist in the growth and the development of the food and certifications and etc. We had there actually a very good boot camp.
But
So
so it does seem that your company is not about basically streamlining and producing and selling. It's more of like centralized platform for R&D, sampling, finding the right way to basically preserve and sterilize food, and the outlet to actually purchase is only one of them. And but if by the way, I'm urging every listener to actually give it a try, not because I want to that I have any kickback, but because it's simply delicious. Like it's been for me like a wow effect that food could have a taste A and taste B. And like if you've been always tasting B stuff, you didn't know that taste A exists. And it's like wow, like I mean, it was like really worth recommendation. Um, if people would love to contribute, help, write a blog, cooperate, or they have another ideas about food, how can you enable that through your Spacefood platform?
So for now, we're running an sort of an e-commerce store that helps us to generate some income in order to reinvest into development of the products and into the research. We are scouting for people who are in the industry, nutritional specialists, especially in the space exploration, and with them we try to find a good ground to work together. So releasing the publications together, working on the researches and etc. So the platform, I think, what the vision is for our company is actually not only the platform, it's a combination of physical products or physical machinery, like not a huge size devices that help you to dry fruits in space or in any environment. Even army mission could help you with that. So you have product, and so it's an ecosystem. I'm seeing it as an ecosystem that is dancing between space, food, and technologies, right? We can and should automate many things for people to free up their time for the missions. But from other side, we need to kind of cover basic needs. So it's a combination of product itself, of sales points, of devices, and of the digital ecosystem that helps to correlate all of the logistics and all of the things. Yep. If it answers
Great.
your question.
Yeah, it answers. But and also like while we talking about food so much, I don't know if do you have any products that you could reach out and show in a camera? Like how does it actually look like?
Not at the moment, but I can run and bring.
Let's then run and bring.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, while E is running to show you samples and showing the audience how it looks like, um, I've just want to tell the story how I met him, and he was my mentor in a design class where it was part of this Factory Berlin community, where he was holding up the free classes just to basically educate people about very important mission and vision, how to be a better designer and entrepreneur at the same time. And I was just telling a story how we met, and the very first sketch that he showed about mastering his skills was actually spaceships. He said, "Guys, look, if you wanna draw really cool spaceships, you should attend my class, and then I will take you from A to B and enable you to be design thinker, entrepreneur, to visualize your idea better." So that's like like a connecting story from spaceship and now the spacefood. So are you back with us?
Yes, I am, and here we go. So first of all, this is the apple rings, a package of really delicious apples, golden apples. Um, there is another one is super sour or boost of vitamin C, kiwi. We claim that basically this product is used in the German governmental bodies to feed the workers so they keep the sour face. Another one is a persimmon. This is a delicious fruit. It's a fruit of kings, very high nutritional values, and it comes from Asia originally. And I personally love it. I fly on this type of food, and I consume enormous amount of it. And the last one from this session, from the set, is basically this melon. Melon is super sweet. Um, It is one of the products that I consume with coffee, for example, instead of mango. So there are multiple requests from our customers like, "Oh, do you have mango?" Like, I know everybody likes mango, but this is the better replacement for it, much sweeter and much nicer. So this is the back of the package, which I designed, and here we have all of the signs symbolizing that it's like super vegan, healthy, 100% natural, and etc. And you have a very special sign here. Love.
Well, E, thanks a lot for this small demonstration of your product line, and I believe you're also working on a lot more to come. I'm really looking forward to try peers. Like from my childhood, I really loved peers, and to be preserved is and provided by your technology. I would love to be feeling being astronaut eating peers in space, and. If any of you would like to try those products, we're gonna place the links in the description. And E, thanks a lot for joining me today. Looking forward to have more to come, and wishing all of you exciting Friday.
Thanks a lot. It's a great pleasure to be on your podcast, and thank you very much for having me here. Bye.
All right, thanks.